And I don't know if I'm gonna get copyright struck on that. And it's funny, I finally figured out on the videos, by using Google Translate my phone and holding it up to, you see the top left corner there. This is the YouTube channel of the Ukraine Security Services. Hey, Christian Grest, thank you guys for coming out. I just want to talk to you a bit. Let me get the microphone out of my face. Hey, frag out. Yeah, I am uh, stealing the frag out background. And so I want to talk to you guys. So, first off, I've been wanting to do something for a long time. And, Dark and a couple of the other guys. Hey, Tim Harper, Chris from the 740. What's up? What's up? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I've been wanting to do a live show for a long time. And I've been thinking about what to do and how to do it. And I don't want to rinse and repeat. I want to do so. I'm gonna honor the turkeys and fill in this time slot Tuesday and Thursday. Wow! Thank you guys for coming out. I'm very impressed with all of you here. I appreciate it. I'm not necessarily going to be talking two-way rights, but that'll be a focus. I'm gonna dive deeper into some tech that interests me. Now, we might have intersections on some of these things, and we may not. You might not be interested in what I'm talking about, but I'm happy to accept your input and have some steerage. So I'm planning on doing Tuesdays, Thursdays, 8:30 till I'm not sure, but I'm also going to be on with Dark tonight, so uh, I'll be there. And what I want to talk to you about is the concept of war, what has changed in war, and specifically how this has affected the Soviet Union and its bomber fleet. Now, very few countries have long range strategic bombers. And realistically, you could say the United States and the Soviet Union does. China's developing it in some ways, but I didn't grab the numbers of production for B-52s. Um, but the U.S., we have the B-52, the B-1, the B-2, the B-21 that is now coming online. It's not in active service yet. So you're talking about a very rare kind of crew of people between countries that have long range bombers, countries that have aircraft carriers, countries that have submarines. It's a very exclusive club. And what are the ramifications of what happened here? And I thought I silenced my phone, and I got to apologize for that. So the question is, where are we, or where is the Soviet Union's ability to project power with their bomber fleet, and where are they going to go in the future? And then, kind of the next question is, does it really matter? Now, there's anywhere between. Let's change the screen. Oh, wow! All right, we're going to talk. Serious? Do I not have a TU-95 up here? Here, give me a second. Let me get a TU-95. So the Soviet Union built the Tu-95, and they were producing it from 1950 until I think it was 1952 to 1992. Let me take a look at my notes, and I stopped sharing the wrong page, and that's what you get for doing a show without any help. So Tu-95. So here's or supposedly here it is. Here's the Wikipedia page on the Tu-95. What basically it started production. I'm looking for my notes. I believe in, let's see. Yeah, so 1952 to 1992. So they produced them for 40 years, 500 built. They have between 40 and 60 prior to the Ukraine conflict active. And, Eric Reyes. Hey, that's a childhood buddy of mine. Hey, Eric, how's it going, man? So this fleet has been, and Jason Ewing, Shana Ewing, thank you for showing up. This fleet has been reduced by 10 to 20%. And we're not really sure how good the fleet was to begin with. You know, meaning the planes may have flown, but how effective were they? How battle ready were they? And now, if you have, let's just say, on the upside of 60 airplanes, you might have a third that's in active service, a third that is down for maintenance, and a third that might be getting refit and upgrades. So that's kind of the lifespan of it. Now, comparatively, the sister aircraft to the Tu-95 was the US B-52, which is still flying, which we're in the midst of doing a engine refit. So the B-52 quite possibly will fly for 100 years. That's kind of crazy to think of, but that's where we are. And Mr. Biesser, how is it going? And so when you reduce the fleet, so the thing that happened is the Tu-95 might not be a viable future aircraft. And what that means is if you don't have enough of them, enough to keep in rotation, enough to upgrade, what does that mean? What's the next step? Now, the question I'm gonna like frame in a couple of different ways. So we're gonna go back in time to the first bomber the Russians had, and let's see, we're gonna share this tab. And the first bomber that the Russians had was basically a knockoff of the B-29 Stratofortress. Now that was the first nuclear capable bomber of the time, and they literally panel per panel, rivet for rivet, cloned the B-29. So we had given them some B-29s during World War II, and they cloned it. So that was kind of crazy. Hey, Stifler Manufacturing, how's it going? The Russians innovated, but also they copied. So the other notable copy that they made, it was the Tupolev Tu-44, the Konkordsky. Now, the interesting thing about this was they did not, just like the Tu-4, they didn't invent the Tu-4. They actually got stolen plans. There was espionage going on. They stole the plans for the Concorde. This plane actually flew first. Now, I don't know if it's been substantiated or if it's just a rumor, but basically there was a flaw introduced into the plans that they got, which I don't know if other people call it this or intelligence services call it this. I call it poisoning the data stream, because it's great if you know that somebody's listening to you, because then you can feed them bad information or information that could get them to act a certain way. So you don't, if you find that you have a leak, an intelligence leak, you might want to leverage that opportunity to push information out that's bad. Now, there's in high-speed aviation, I'm not going to get too deep in the woods on this, but there's a thing called flutter, and I believe what they did is they leaked plans that had flutter in it, which basically means the airplane at some speed tore itself apart, and there were a number of crashes with this aircraft. So where we're going right now is what Russia had in the past was the Tu-4, the Tu-44, and two incidents of them basically cloning an aircraft design. The Russian Tu-144, which is a supersonic aircraft. And I'm sorry, I meant to skip over to another tab. So this was more information. I'm just going to skip that right now. We're going to be going over here to the Tu-160, which looks very much like a B-1 bomber, but it's like a third larger. It's faster, but doesn't carry as much armament. So a couple of interesting things about that. So you might say it looks like a clone of the B-1. It really isn't. if you're going to do certain things with an airplane, Jova Q, how's it going, man? Lightning Scott and Johnny Three Bar, thank you for joining me. Oh, Shoot a Gallery, how's it going, Joe? So, if you're going to do a certain thing with certain equipment that was developed at a certain period of time, you may end up with stuff that looks alike, and hence this aircraft here. So, where are we going, and what does this all mean? So, this is one of the more advanced aircraft that they have. They could just say retire their current fleet. They can't actually buy an airplane, a long range bomber from another country, because pretty much it's us and them. Goonbeam, how's it going, sir? And are they going to put all of their eggs in the TU-160 basket, like refitting it and getting it more modernized? Are they going to be what they're working on? Let's see, is a competitor to the B2 or B21. So that's kind of where they are. What they call it is the PACDA. So PAKDA, which it's a whole big acronym. It's basically a next generation flying wing, and they say it's similar to the B2, B21, or China's H20. The question now is, do they get an advantage? Hey, Real Cujo, how's it going, man? Are they going to see an advantage by maybe skipping some technology and being forced to move forward? And the case study would be China. Like, China stole a large number of documents of our aircraft and developed near peer, from what we can tell, because we haven't had any combat engagements with them, but things like the F-22 and F-35. So they could be actually moving a little faster than we would have. But being that we're already flying something like the B2 and getting online the B21, this may just mean that they're going to abandon the Tu-95 faster and then put more effort on newer technology. So the question is, are we better off now that there are less Tu-95s, or is it a more dangerous world in the future that they're going to be forced to innovate and develop more modern aircraft at a more rapid rate to fill that gap? So that's really the question I wanted to pose and go through and explain, hey, where they've been, what they're doing, and where they could possibly go. Now, I'm going to circle back. Let's go back to the video here, because what is better than drones? A brilliant attack, a brilliant, kind of a next level attack, because the concept is always that, are you fighting the current war the way the last war should have been, or are you fighting with the tactics and the techniques and the skills and the equipment of the current state? Now, at first, I was believing that the tires on the planes were there to disrupt AI, but I've seen more tires stacked on airplanes in other videos on critical spots like the spar. That's where the wing attach, basically the structural part of the wing, and where the wing carries the load to the fuselage. So if you see these, basically their equivalent of our AWACS, the spar is heavily loaded with tires. You'll see videos where they actually have like chain link fence gates over the intersection of the spar and the wing and the fuselage. So, hey, Walt, Dirtfoot Racing, how's it going? So, Safety Harbor Firearms is out there, and thank you for joining us. I do have, and so these planes, you can see that the more vulnerable sections, and there's chain link fence on the wing and fuselage intersection. So it seems like they were preparing to keep these aircraft safe from vulnerable areas getting attacked by drones. So based on these images here. War will never be fought the same. The Ukraine war has brought us into a new realm where a sub $1,000 drone can take out a multi-million dollar aircraft, a multi-million dollar ship, whether it's a jet ski refit with a Starlink and some explosives. And they're even shooting down helicopters and jets with these modified jet skis, basically. So we're having kind of a David and Goliath effect where Ukraine doesn't have a great air force, they don't have a great naval presence, they don't have a lot of things. And I don't know so much. We've always talked about Russia, and I don't know if the U.S. just needs an enemy and that you just say, oh, watch out for them, they're bad. We need all of these military things to protect you against Russia. When you're looking at what Ukraine's doing, you're like, maybe not so much. And that could be the thing that changes the future, is that we're not going to be fighting with like multi-million dollar missiles in the future. A lot of companies have come out with cheaper munitions because you don't want to lose the war of financial attrition, that you have a $1 million, like an SM-1, SM-2, SM-3 missile that are on the order of $1 million plus each to shoot down $100,000, $200,000 or less Shahed drone. You can't lose that war of attrition. So there's F-15s are now getting armed with rocket pods, and what used to be unguided missiles and then laser guided missiles are now having their own active radar seekers on them, and they can take out, let's see, I'll just go full screen here, and they can take out these cheaper drones with a cheaper missile that was cheaper than the drone. So there's a lot of cool technology getting evolved. We are keeping abreast with it. So my first knee-jerk reaction when I saw, like, hey, you have quote unquote prefab homes getting delivered to a location that have a false ceiling, the top flips off, drones fly out and damage critical infrastructure. That could happen anywhere. There was basically a Spiderweb 2 attack, and this was from rail cars and apparently on Russian tanks. So this is kind of a tech guerrilla warfare. That's right. So let's see. Frag Out is saying, I don't think Russia has finally laid it down yet, though, either. I'm very surprised they couldn't completely wreck Ukraine if they decided to just launch. So again, I don't think anybody wants to nuke them. I think, the whole idea is they want the land and the resources that they have. They don't want to destroy the area, and they don't want to make the area uninhabitable. So, and I guess I'm thinking what we all need is maybe a KSG and a bunch of birdshot, because that might be what it comes down to in the future, is the ability. Just like there were cluster munitions, decades ago, and that was a change in tactics. Maybe the cluster munition of the future will be a pod that drops like a bomb, and it slows down with a drogue parachute and releases a bunch of quadcopters that goes people hunting. And yeah, so Fragout is refining what he said, that maybe they have non-nuclear arsenal. And that was one of the things that they said about the hypersonic. There was one or two attacks where they had a hypersonic weapon, a real hypersonic weapon, unlike what the Kinzhal that they claimed to be hypersonic. And and Dark, thanks for jumping in here. So what apparently they did is, on that hypersonic attack, they removed the nuclear warheads and basically put like concrete in a mass simulator. and flew them in, and that was just a non-explosive, non-nuclear hypersonic. So in what Safety Harbor Walt is saying is, so the Kinzhal, let's go back to the very first ballistic missile, the V1 and the V2. Um, the V1 was a cruise missile. The V2 was a ballistic missile. The V2, the very first ballistic missile ever to exist, was hypersonic, and in meaning that it went Mach 5 or better. But the whole idea, the concept of hypersonic, is to be able to maneuver at hypersonic speeds, do not follow ballistic trajectory at hypersonic speeds. So Walt's point is correct about virtually all of the hypersonic claims out there, that they aren't real hypersonic weapons. So let's and Walt is right again. So our many years old Patriot weapon system has made mincemeat out of their super missile. Thanks, Barton Fink. Thanks. I'll stay away from that one. And let's see. I'm going to go back through my notes here. So the question is, just like weapons that we have, is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier something that we're going to want and need in the future? Does it have a lifespan into the future? Does a long-range bomber have a lifespan into the future? Are Russian nukes already sitting somewhere on U.S. soil and just waiting for a code or not to get a code and go off? Because these types of attacks could already be well war gamed out and thought of in the future. So this could be something. And I didn't clickbait. I kind of clickbait, but I didn't clickbait. So the future of the Flying Rich channel is, if you were here at the beginning, I'm going to do a Tuesday and Thursday live stream, and I'm going to talk about something that I've done some research on and that interests me, and I'm going to share it. And it may not be a firearms type thing. It may be aviation, it may be military, it may be tech. So probably there's a lot to talk about in firearms. I'm sitting on some news that I can't share yet in the firearms industry. I'm thinking about doing a deep dive on Thursday into the FRT super safety whole story. I liked VSO Gun Channel Curtis had an interesting take on what was going on. He talked about instant karma for rare breed. And actually, Walt, I don't know if I can talk about this, if this is something I can talk about. At first, when I read that, I thought Walt was giving away free 50 caliber uppers, but that isn't what he's talking about. There is a lot of anti-drone technology in the works, but the question is, right now in the United States, you have UPS, FedEx, USPS delivering packages to houses every day. Who's to say the next drone delivery system isn't going to be a common carrier of parcels? So the next war, in some people say we're already in the next war. We're already in World War III, that it's a cyber war that's going on. And the next war might just be fought with ones and zeros. Then again, it might be Skynet. And Skynet might be a bunch of drones that are controlled by AI. So Terminator may have been close to right. And, I'm sorry, I wanted to click on this one. So Walmart launched their drone delivery program in Texas, which is kind of cool. And Hank Strange, if you don't know, usually calls dibs. So Chris Bullis is saying if Walt gives away free uppers, I call dibs. And so just in case you're not sure about where I stand, I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. I think suppressors, machine guns, short barrel rifles should be dispensed out of vending machines. So if I talk crap about rare breed, I have no issue with pull release triggers, force reset triggers, binary triggers, full auto. That's not an issue. I think rare breed has done some things that are not the nicest going on out there. And of course, I'm going to have to give a shameless plug. I did plug Walt at Safety Harbor Firearms. I can't tell you his website, but I just want to show you this beautiful knife from Definition Knives. My co-pilot is finally going to need to be sharpened. I haven't used any of these knives. They've been sitting on my desk. Holy cow, the blade is super, super sharp. I gotta say, it's very cool being in on the ground floor at Definition Knives, as Dark and I are both owners of Definition Knives, having a really nice, substantial product in your hand that you can get at definitionknives.com. Where's Johnny 3-Bar? He usually drops the link by now. So definitionknives.com for your wonderful EDC cutlery at very reasonable prices. Don't pay more for nearly the same thing somebody else produces. And I seriously, all serious, I get such a kick out of this that I'm like, these are my knives. This is my company. That's cool. And somebody like Kurt24, I think, owes at least every single one. He might have bought 2 sets. I'm not sure. So guys, I think I'm going to wrap right now, unless you got any questions. I'm going to, not going to do an hour or a half hour or whatever. I'm just going to do as much information as I can brain dump and as many questions as I can answer. So that is what I'm going to be doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. But I think I want to do Thursday, go into all the patents and patent trollery and look at just binary triggers, super safeties, FRTs, wide open triggers, Alamo triggers, all of those things, and talk about all of the cast of characters and people. Some people I know, some people have shoes, some people don't have shoes. And thank you for joining me.